Welcome back to Undisputed. The Giants released an informal Twitter poll asking their fans to weigh in and select their all-time favorite Giants receiver. But you know who wasn't on the list? Odell Beckham Jr., even though OBJ ranked second in team history in yards and fourth in receptions and touchdowns. So, Shannon, do you have a problem with the way the Giants are handling Odell?
Skip, this is so petty. It's hard for me to believe that they got Sterling Shepard, Victor Cruz, Hakeem Nicks in front of him. Okay, you want Amani Toomer and Plexico because they won Super Bowls. I get it. I get all that. But come on. Skip, I mean, where's Homer Jones? I mean, people don't realize, I know you know who Homer Jones is, who's credited for the spike, but he and Bob Hayes were the two fastest men in football. And he's not on this list. So what are we just going like, if you don't leave on good terms, you can't be on this list. Odell is the best receiver. Skip, stop this.
Shannon, I'm so with you because I never thought I would see the day that the New York Football Giants, a cornerstone NFL franchise, would stoop to this level of pettiness. This is the Mara family, the Tisch family, and you're trying to do this. You're trying to scrub Odell from memory, like he didn't even exist as a New York Football Giant. And Shannon, obviously, even after he took the receivers to South Beach for the yacht picture on the week they were going to play on the frozen tundra at Lambeau, and even after that Paris video, they gave him his big mega contract. And the next thing they knew, he was talking about wanting to play in Los Angeles. And I think they never forgave him for that. So they tried to ship him to nowhere, to Cleveland. And now they're trying to actually expunge him from their records. And they're just better than that. Or maybe now they're not. Maybe they've fallen to this level.
We would think, but Sterling Shepard, Skip.
What a way to end the show.
Nicks.
Honestly,
boy, this
we
is
will be back
at a highest
Monday
level.
at 10 a.m. Eastern. Keep listening up, Shannon. The Herd is coming up right after us. Have a great weekend at home. Stay safe, everyone. When discussing Tom Brady's departure from New England to Tampa, Hall of Famer and beloved member of our Fox family, Terry Bradshaw, said he doesn't see Brady as the greatest of all time. He admitted he's won more Super Bowls than any QB, but is not better than the likes of Roger Staubach, Dan Marino, or Joe Montana. So, Shannon, do you believe that Brady is the greatest of all time?
Skip, I think it's a two-horse race. I really do. Skip, but let me start with Terry. Skip, we are very, very protective of the era in which we played in. It's hard for me to believe because I played it with Elway and Marino and Montana and Bruce Smith and Emmitt Smith and Dion and all yada, yada, yada. So, Skip, I don't like saying someone from the 80s or the after I was done in 2010s and all that was better than, because I'm very protective of that era. I played in that era. I know what these guys are capable of doing. But it's hard for me, and I get it. If Terry would have said, look, I don't like saying anybody's the greatest, and left it at that, okay, I'd have been cool with that. But it's hard to say guys that's never won Super Bowls are better than a guy that has 6, no matter what you think about him personally. And I don't know if Terry has any personal feelings, likes or dislikes against him, but I believe it's a two-horse race. Now, you look at Joe, Skip. Joe is 4-0 in Super Bowls, 3 MVPs, and Super Bowl MVPs. He's 11 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. Now, when you're looking at it, are we looking at the guy that's won the most Super Bowls? Because you told me the reason why you say Michael Jordan is the GOAT is like in all those finals, he didn't lose. Well, Tom has 3 losses on his resume. Now, Joe has signature moments too. The catch, we still talk about the catch. I don't know if you were at that game when you watched that because I know it hurt a little more because it happened against the Cowboys. And one of the clutchest drives in Super Bowl history is the drive that he had against the Bengals, Skip. I think it was in Miami, in that he goes 92 yards and a field goal wasn't going to do it. As a matter of fact, the play was, if I'm not mistaken, it was 200 X slant. I know that's the West Coast offense. Hit John Taylor on the backside on the slant route for the game-winning touchdown. Skip, look. And who knows what he could have been, Joe, had he not, because Skip, 91-92, he had won back-to-back MVPs in 89 and 90. he misses the large part of 91 and 92 with an elbow injury. Steve Young steps in with MVP, and Skip, we know how it ends after that. So who knows what he would have done? But the numbers are not going to be comparable because they didn't throw the ball kind of like they do now. For me, Skip, I'm not going. If someone says Tom Brady is the GOAT of quarterbacks, Skip, I'm not going to fight with them like I fight with you when you say somebody's better than GOAT James. But if you say Montana, I'll go with that. If you say Brady, all right, I guess, 6 and 9 tries with all he's accomplished, the regular season MVPs, the 30-plus playoff wins. Skip, I'm not going to fight you, but I will fight you if you say somebody better than GOAT James, that is.
I told you we're not talking about LeBron on today's show. We're talking about real GOATs, not phony GOATs. So you just broke the rule that I set at the top of this show. So you are docked. You can't talk for the next 4 minutes because you're fined 1 minute. I get to talk an extra minute here. Let me say this about the great Terry Bradshaw. I love him. I have known him forever. And I know a lot of our younger viewers only know Terry as sort of funny old Uncle Terry on Fox, talking football. Let me tell all the kids out there, Terry Bradshaw was a flat-out, all-time stud of a quarterback in the National Football League. He went to 4 Super Bowls and won all 4 of them. He led what, to me, was the greatest NFL team in history, the 1978 Pittsburgh Steelers. They had 5 Hall of Famers on offense and 5 on defense and 2 more Pro Bowlers who were not Hall of Famers. That's an impossible embarrassment of riches on one team. But guess who was the MVP regular season 1978? Terry Bradshaw. Guess who was the Super Bowl MVP of Super Bowl 13 against my Dallas Cowboys? Pittsburgh won 35-31 in the all-time greatest shootout in Super Bowl history, thanks to the MVP, Terry Bradshaw. 6'2", 220, 225, athlete, stud. And what Terry is saying, I appreciated, because he's saying, if you're talking about the most gifted quarterbacks ever, what was the first name out of his mouth? My all-time favorite quarterback as a kid growing up, Roger Staubach. I got to know him in Dallas. I covered him. I got to play a lot of basketball against Roger in the off seasons. I know him inside and out, and he was an all-time stud athlete with a great arm. Dan Fouts was one of the great passers in the history of the game. Dan Marino, we just talked about, greatest thrower of the football ever. Joe Montana was an all-time great combination of accuracy and athletic elusivity. He could really move and groove in the pocket, and he could escape and hurt you with his legs in ways Tom Brady never thought about doing. But here's my issue with this whole premise. I feel like, to your point, Shannon, that a lot of older players just, they can't put their arm around Tom Brady. There's something about Tom Brady they can't give in to. There's something about Brady, he doesn't speak the right language for them. He's not the typical, prototypical stud quarterback. He doesn't carry himself the way all these other quarterbacks did in days gone by. There's something weird, different about Tom. As I always tell you, he can be cliche-ridden. He can be lame, jokey on IG. He can be the nerdy dad next door all too often. He doesn't fit the mold of the classic franchise quarterback. And yet, if you look at what he's done on the highest level more consistently than anybody by far, is he's played the position better than any of those other quarterbacks ever played it consistently on the biggest stages in the sport. Even Montana didn't go to 9 Super Bowls. He went to 4, and he was great in those 4. He probably should have won all 4 MVPs, but in the game you brought up against Cincinnati, they gave it early with 2 minutes to go to Jerry Rice because he had 200-plus receiving yards in that game. But Joe hit John Taylor with the game winner. He should have been the MVP. But the point, Shannon, about Tom Brady is no one has ever played the position better, been more effective, especially in the clutch, over an expanse of 20 years the way Brady has. He's also something that nobody ever brings up from the older quarterbacks. He's the greatest leader in the history of the game. I'm sorry, he just was. And Ray Lewis is up there, and Shannon Sharpe is up in that conversation. But Tom did it against Bill Belichick. He had to reset the culture and try to keep that team together with a dictator, a tyrant of a head coach. And Tom led that locker room for 20 years. And he's the one who set the tone and the culture that allowed Belichick to thrive doing what he did best, which was coach defense, and then Tom to do what he did best, which is make plays in the clutch in AFC championship games and Super Bowls. It's just extraordinary that he has 6 rings with 6 fourth quarter, come from behind, game-winning drives. That's impossibly great. And Shannon, when you look at the yards that he